On this episode of Athletes Anonymous Presents After the Buzzer, we're going to be talking about the conference finals as they're getting set up. Obviously, that means that the semifinals are over now. So we are here talking about the New York Knicks, the Golden State Warriors, the Philadelphia 76ers, and of course, the Phoenix Suns. I almost forgot what the last team was. Let's get to the intro music. Welcome back to the podcast. I am your co-host, Kieran McKeague, and with me, as always, are my longtime friends and co-hosts, Nolan Chang, Jared Chirai. Say what's up to the pod, boys.
Hello. What's up?
Boy, oh boy, was it an action-packed semifinals for each conference. Our predictions didn't go so great, but that doesn't matter because we're going to talk about the games anyway. I'm going to start it off in the Eastern Conference with the Heat. I think it's probably the series that we considered probably the least surprising for any of us because I do feel like we all predicted at least who the winner was going to be for sure. So I'll say the Heat versus the Knicks. Obviously, the Knicks being eliminated. I'm going to throw that one over to you, Nolan. What did you kind of see from Jimmy Butler? Obviously, Jalen Brunson kind of showing out a little bit, but other than that, what are your thoughts on the entire series and what happened?
Overall, the Heat proved that they once again, and I know we may talk about that here, kind of regarding like everyone saying, "Oh yeah, the bubble wasn't a fluke." The one thing that wasn't a fluke was the fact that the core Heat guys that are returning still do have that dog in them. Got to make sure I enunciate.
Dong in them.
Dog.
We don't want any more of those.
But they do have that dog in them, and the guys that they've acquired since then have also stepped up. Caleb Martin, I want to give him a shout out. Max Stress, Bam Adebayo, showing why he is year in and year out part of the all defensive teams mostly. I don't think he make it this year, right? He did.
He did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as a somewhat, I wouldn't say he's an undersized big man, but in today's game where we have all these 7-footers who can like go in and out of the paint, he's doing quite a great job protecting the paint for the Heat. Kyle Lowry, he's not what he used to be, and even though we wouldn't necessarily that's like a Hall of Famer kind of player, but he is a quality player and an all-star due to those reasons. So I think that even though his prime has definitely declined, he's still being able to contribute on both sides of the ball. I did get not confirmation, but I did like talk with some other people who I guess read articles that it's for sure Hero won't be back for this whole postseason. So that's unfortunate because I do think that he was the kind of.
I was like a broken hand or whatever.
I think they said it was a clean break, like not just a fracture. I was like, ugh, okay, well then. Especially if it's a shooting hand, it's like
that's something like
from you.
It's kind of difficult to come back.
But hey, Duncan Robinson finally getting more minutes this whole playoff series, and he's giving it his all, getting those shots up. He's definitely been hitting a high clip since we kind of talked about before playoffs started, where Duncan Robinson's not that guy anymore. And one of those guys that I'm pleasantly happy that we were wrong in all that respect. But they deserved this series win because from beginning to end they showed that they wanted it more, and I am on the same boat as Stephen A. Smith. Knicks got to get rid of Julius Randle. He's a stats guy, but when it comes down to it, he's not going to be there when you need him, even though he's physically there. Jalen Brunson, we've talked about it. Thanks for proving us wrong. You deserve that contract, and you gave everything you had in that Game 6, and you should be able to hold your head up high, regardless of how the series ended. Emmanuel Quickly, Grimes, Robinson showed up a little. Mitchell Robinson showed up for them. Opie Toppin, RJ Barrett. We might get to it later. RJ Barrett's looking like the guy who from the 2018 draft seems to be of those top three. He seems to be the one that's actually still on the court not due to any sort of off-court antics or
No.
injuries or whatever it may be, but I think the writing was on the wall the moment that I saw the interview where Julius Randle said maybe they just want it more. It's like, that's not what, you don't fucking roll over while you're still in the series against this team. Um, so I do think that Julius Randle needs to be the piece that has to go. He doesn't seem like
Interesting.
he's fighting
For
as hard as he
DeMar
used. I'm just saying, DeMar
He
DeRozan.
brings the veteran leadership. Like,
God damn it!
Every team we're gonna talk about is gonna be
Yeah.
DeMar DeRozan.
it's
I'm
like, it
just
could
saying,
be Nikola
they wanted to
Vucevic. I
get
don't care. Either those two guys.
But yeah, good job to the Heat. They do now have probably the toughest battle in front of them with the Celtics. And I would say that though I do have the Celtics winning that series, they proved in the Sixers matchup that if there's like one or two games where these guys are have an off night, that the Heat are that team to capitalize on your kind of your shortcomings. So
Mhm.
we'll see how that series goes. I think it starts to
Wednesday. I think it starts Wednesday.
I know Lakers are tomorrow. I don't know.
Lakers are tomorrow, and I didn't see any other games for that. So let me look.
It's probably
really quick.
Wednesday then. But yeah, good job.
Yeah,
Heat.
Wednesday at
Yeah, all
Boston.
things told, I do think that this will probably be a better matchup than the 76ers matchup, because I feel like the 76ers just always struggle with the Celtics. Like, I think you said in the pod already that they're like literally the perfect anti 76ers team. So,
Yeah.
like, for me, I think this will probably be a closer matchup. It'll be very
Yeah.
interesting to see how it ends up playing out. Jimmy versus JT over there in Boston. So, yeah, kudos to the Knicks. Obviously, they had a great season. I'm so curious now that you've said that, what they will do with Julius Randle. If it'll end up being him being traded out, or if they may just add to that core by trading some of the other pieces they have. So, anyway, yep, I'll throw it over to you now, Jared. Obviously, we have the other Eastern Conference teams. It did come down to the Boston Celtics and the 76ers. What did you see from the series? And obviously, JT closed it out in ridiculous fashion in Game 7. So, what are your thoughts on the Boston Celtics first? And then we'll kind of go into your highlights, lowlights for the 76ers.
Well, all I'm gonna say is, if Jason Tatum didn't do that, then he's not that guy, because he pretty much cost them like Game 6. He had 1 point at the half. Like, that's all I saw. Like, he had 1 point. I was like, bruh, you were so lucky that you get bailed out to force Game 7 and to show out in Game 7 and actually be there and score. Was it record high 51?
Yeah.
It's a record high. It's Game 7 record high, right?
Yep.
Points scored.
I think Steph was 50 and then he was 51 this season.
Yeah. So, I mean,
good company to be in.
yeah, nothing wrong with that. But Jason Tatum, I mean, like, that's a great bounce back game, and we've said it a bunch of times with the Celtics. They're going to go as far as him and Brown go. I would say more him, because he's been the scapegoat in the last few years for not showing up in big games and costing them their title runs and championships and things like that. So to see that he goes and scores 1 point and then scores, I think he scored 18 in the second half to end with 19 in Game 6. So at least, he was trying to get on that rhythm again. But to come out in Game 7, come out firing, and to win by, what did they win by, 24? Yeah, 24. I don't know how to do math over here. Sorry.
We're not mathematicians.
I was like, sorry, Pod. I literally just got back from Chicago this morning. I'm on like 2 hours of sleep. We're good over here. But yeah, but going in, I think this Game 7 testing series, it'll be very interesting going into the Heat matchup for them, because I mean, it's a 7-game series, so it takes a lot out of them.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other side of the ball, when we were talking about the Heat, the one thing that I noticed is, like, a lot of their big guns played a lot of big minutes, a lot of heavy minutes. So in all honesty, I think it's going to be who can be healthier, who has that deeper rotation. And I think Boston's kind of more that team that we talked about in the past, in past pods, that they are the deeper team. So that definitely gives them a little bit more of an edge to rest their starters. But if if they don't come out and show out and get those leads and whatnot, and to get the rotations in, then it's gonna be it could be a 7-game series,
The
which I'm not mad about.
what is the Boston Tech coach? Joe Mazzulla, is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was like, I think that's the Boston's head coach. But I gotta say that'll be another big matchup that people aren't really even talking about. But Eric Spoelstra, man, he has been just putting on an absolute clinic in coaching
Yep.
in the last few series. Like whether it's, I mean, obviously he gets to play his guys a lot of minutes, and I will say in likened to kind of what Tom Thibodeau used to do. You put them out there because they can play and they're healthy and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, it's almost like you see kind of like how he's able to sparse them and like give Jimmy like a quick like minute or minute and a half off and then put him back in again. It's like it's crazy how that next man up mentality that Spoelstra kind of instills in the Heat and their Heat culture. It's I mean, bro, like some of his rotations, like I was just like, it's insane that literally even when Jimmy was out, they kept the game so close, and you thought they might steal it in 6, and they might steal it in 5 or 4 or whatever. That I think that was game 4, right, when they first lost to the Knicks.
No, they were up 2. They were up 2.
Oh, they were
right?
up 3. They were up 3.
No, it was a 1-1 series. Sorry, it was a 1-1 series,
They
wasn't
went
it?
up 3-1, and then
No.
lost game.
They
5,
went up 3-1,
and
so it
then-
was
I don't
2-1, and they
remember.
were
Yeah.
I was like, I feel like it was game 4 because
I
I know
don't
they.
remember.
I remember they won 2 of the first 3, but anyway, I was gonna say I just remember thinking like, if they win this with Caleb Martin and you know what I mean, like it's just insane to me, and it's just that mind, man. He may end up being up there as far as top 5 coaches of all time. We're gonna have to redo that list. No, I'm just joking.
Hey, I
Anyway,
mean, we talked about him with managing talent, and then now that he's
yeah.
actually scheming, I think it really shows to his growth as a head coach.
Like I said,
Being a film guy too. I mean, that definitely helps you in the long run because
That
you're so
is-
used to seeing things.
that's always the test. Like to me, it doesn't matter how great your team is if you coach them and you're like you can say the personality thing, but the true test is like if can you do it when you have basically nobody on your team. So,
Yeah.
Just
they mean,
Jimmy Butler.
yeah.
And
Anyway,
then,
sorry. Yeah,
no, we'll talk
throwing
about
it
the
over back
Sixers
to you.
now.
Yeah.
The Sixers. You know, I'll say James Harden
Trash.
actually.
No, I'm just joking.
Hey, I picked him at the beginning of the season.
Trash.
At least they sort of made it as farther than the Bucks, at least, right? No, but
I was
no,
like,
the Sixers.
yeah.
James Harden. James Harden. You know, the older he's getting, I think the more he's understanding a more of a role kind of thing. I feel like he's still kind of one of those players that does need the ball in his hand to get in a rhythm, to get his shots up, to kind of stay in motion,
Definitely,
and that's
yeah.
why his shooting goes up and down as they go. Man, I hate to always bring it up, but this is why Joel Embiid wasn't my MVP. I mean, that's just it's hard, you know. I just want that you're an MVP for a reason. Obviously Jokic showed it on his side. You know, I mean, we can put Giannis into that, and then he did lose in 7. But when you're that guy, you gotta come into Game 7, and you gotta be able to take over a game, or at least a closeout game or an elimination game. And I feel like it just wasn't there. There was no want or will. We talked about it in the Miami series, like the sense of urgency of who wants it more. And, you know, like I said, Jason Tatum had a horrible game. And going off of that, you want to make sure he has a horrible game, so you take over the game early. Doesn't matter if you're playing in Boston, doesn't matter if you're playing in Philadelphia. You got to make sure that you're shutting the crowd, especially if you're playing in Boston too. You're shutting the crowd out early by making your presence known, making them irrelevant, not letting them go on runs, not letting them do things. I know they were up after 1, but still, like it's the first quarter. I'm pretty sure the Lakers are always down in the first quarter, and then the second quarter they decide to start playing. Like teams like that. And especially when you're playing away and you're supposed to be that guy. That's what it is for me. But I don't think they utilize PJ Tucker or they give enough praise in that regard. I mean, I know we always talk about him, but he can't do everything by himself.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I mean, on the defensive side of the ball, Embiid plays when he wants to. And I think PJ Tucker's like the only guy, in my opinion, that
What do you
really
think
plays
about the
defense.
comments after the game that Embiid gave, where he basically said that only him and Harden showed up for the series?
Man, I don't agree with it because I don't even think he showed up. I'll give James Harden. Maybe Game 7, James Harden didn't play as James Harden, but in the games that Harden that they won, or the games that they were semi-relevant in games, I think it was more Harden for me than it was Embiid. And it's more on the offensive end, at least when you talk about things like that. And I don't know what it is with Embiid. I feel like everybody talks about like, oh, there's growth and this and that, but I feel like he declines year after year. Like there was such big talk, and then little by little, and then to give him the MVP this year and to watch this happen and all the controversy behind it. This is like, I mean, I like Jokic. I've always liked Jokic as a big man, and I give credit where credit's due, but I don't think Embiid had a better year than him. And for him to show out like this doesn't support the cases that were made for him to be this team, that guy.
Mhm.
So, I mean, going
Jay
forward
would say,
though,
Rock Chalk Jayhawk.
he would though. He would.
Yeah, I know. Shout out to my boy.
I don't know. Going forward though, I just feel like they have to go in some kind of different direction. Whether it's
Does
to get
Harden
rid of
stay?
him.
If you're Harden, do you stay?
If I'm Harden, I don't stay. If I'm Harden, I don't stay. I think
You're muted, Nolan.
Harden and Jaylen Brown to the Rockets.
You need like a light, my boy.
I know.
You need like something that shows you whether or not you're talking.
No, we'll just all have a sign that says muted.
Yeah, no. 'Cause, like, I'm pretty sure, like in every podcast we've had, you always have at least one moment where we say you muted. It's like,
because it's like usually it's like right next. It used to be right next to me when we first started, but when
Mhm.
I rearranged my desk and shifted everything, it's like towards the back. So like it's not in my eyesight unless I'm like looking straight down at it over. So sometimes it gets confusing. I apologize, but
No, it is
yeah,
fine.
I think this is the time for. The rumor is that he's down to go to the Rockets. Jaylen Brown is now eligible for what, like near 300 million multi-year contract. The Rockets have the money, or if they have Wembanyama, make that
that'll be a whole
trade.
different conversation once that all happens, and
we'll find out tomorrow.
I'd be so curious to see how that pairing does together. Even though I do think that James Harden kind of shifted into like a more of a point guard role.
Yes.
Yeah, so
and that's why I don't think he stays.
Yeah.
Because like with the whole Embiid thing and whatnot, I just don't think they're a good mesh together.
It's funny because I know there was like a rumor out there that they would try to trade for Bradley Beal, but I was like, does Bradley Beal put you over the top with Harden?
Is that kind of another guy that needs the ball in his hand?
Yeah, I don't know. It is one of those things where I'm just like, I don't know.
DeMar DeRozan.
She's like, but DeMar DeRozan would provide such stability.
DeMar and Vooch go there for Embiid.
This is like pounce, So anyway,
I mean, you probably have to give up a lot more, but
nope, just those two. It's like
nope, he said it.
Pounce. I already called it. Call it in. But anyway, yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the offseason. Another interesting stat for all my podcast listeners out there that Embiid is the first MVP not to make a conference final. So that is telling of whether or not he deserved that MVP award. But I'm going to throw it over to you.
MVP to never make a conference final, not just the year, because that happens.
He's a loser. But Nolan, I'm going to throw it over to you as the resident Laker fan here.
Not the resident KD fan?
No. You know what's funny? I saved that one for me, so that's going to be for me at the end. Because I'm going in on Homeboy.
Hey, there we go.
Anyway, we're going to talk about the Lakers obviously eliminating the Warriors in 6. Don't lie. If you're a Laker fan out there, you saw the Corgi video and you were worried a little bit.
Bro, everybody was worried about the Corgi video.
Like,
That's
I'm
why
pretty sure every single Laker fan I saw posted something about it, whether it was to say thank God or to say like stupid. Warrior fans think some corgi makes a shot. You're like, yeah, don't lie. You saw the video and you were like,
My friend
is
groups,
it
because we have
happening?
multiple friends who have corgis. It was like, you better keep your dog indoors for the next end of the series. I was like, your dog is on the blacklist right now.
um, what do you think about the premise that Anthony Davis is the best slash most important player on the Lakers team right now?
The best / most important player.
Mhm.
I would say,
This was hotly debated on first take, so I'm just
um,
curious.
I would say yes, he is.
Mhm.
The reason why I would say it is because um, when you face different types of teams, for example, Memphis Grizzlies, you have the big man defensive player of the year, Jaren Jackson. You have to match up with him and be able to score on a nightly basis against the now reigning defensive player of the year. So what are you going to do about that? So arguably had better statistics as a defensive big man as AD, and now Jaren Jackson is supposed to be the one that's going to stop you in this first round series. Cool. Get past them. Move on to the Warriors. AD, we need you to show up because they don't have anyone that can stop you inside. AD gets going, games he pops off, boom, win. We get going because whatever he's able to feed it into the paint, we have that. Now it's another matter of he may not be the guy who's gonna like blow by you, but you're playing against the previous two-time MVP of the league, and he is like he's on all cylinders this postseason with Jokic, and now you have to be able to contain him while being able to make sure that he is funneled off to passing to players that we know we can cover as a team in rotation. So especially for this year, especially for this postseason, I do agree that Anthony Davis is the most important player for our Lakers team and success, just because he has the whole postseason is on his shoulders for this team. We knew
Yeah.
that when the season started, a lot of the good games were going to go through him, and a lot of the bad games were probably going to go through Westbrook, and that's what happened. Now that
Mhm.
Westbrook's gone and we have this team that can go get it themselves, it's still a matter of, hey, AD, you are the anchor for this team and how we're going to be able to be efficient and produce in a nightly basis against these other postseason competitors.
Mhm.
So I do think that this Denver series, I'll say it now. I think this one could go to 7 just because of the multitude of assets and efficient players that the Nuggets have, but as
Mhm.
well, the Lakers team the second half of the season has shown that we have just as many if we need to. So it's going to be a tough thing, but it does go through AD for this season, for this postseason.
It's funny because I was thinking like my kind of hot-ish take, I guess, is fully healthy. I think that him and Kawhi are probably top 3 players in the league.
Yeah,
Like for me, I just think that AD is just so damn talented. It's crazy to me that we just can't get a fully healthy version of him. Like it
I have a
sucks.
better hot take than that.
There you go.
ooh.
I don't think it's AD. I think it's Austin Reeves. And I, when I
Austin
saw, I
Reeves.
and my thing for
Most
him is
important I can see,
because
but
well, it's because
best
like
I don't know.
he scores and he does it, but you think about the defenses that he's had to run against, they're very guard heavy, and he usually has to guard that guy and
Mhm.
shut them down, chase them around, like like how you guys we always talked about Caruso
Yeah.
last year, and I think like it's been very under. I wouldn't say he's underrated because he's been getting a lot of love from a lot of different people
Mhm.
about it. I mean, but
He's
just
rated.
watching the way he's been playing and the way he's been shutting like offenders down and
Mhm.
forcing bad things in that regard, I get it like on the big side because it's not a big bad game every now and then, right? Like you
Mhm.
said, 80 scores on the reigning defensive player of the year or the newly defensive player of the year, and
Mhm.
of course that's a big
Mhm.
thing. And when he didn't show up against the Warriors, it was that. But Austin Reeves does a lot of things on the defense side of the ball, and then he hits some big shots and makes some big plays in
Mhm.
moments that you don't have the two big dogs on the court. So
He
I
has an
mean,
IQ
that's
that
kind
most
of
players can't learn. You're born with it.
yeah,
Oh yeah. It's funny
yeah.
because I
I
do think
agree.
that's true to a certain extent, but I feel like you're obviously not, I don't think you're a championship contending team if you don't have AD. It's like literally if I were to take AD off the team, they're not even in the playoffs. But if you were to take Austin Reeves off the team, they're at least in the playoffs. But I do understand the sentiment that Austin Reeves is obviously playing his mind out during this postseason.
He's
Contract
having a
years.
great postseason run. I think
I'm telling
that's a great way
you,
to put
he's
it.
gonna price his way out of your guys' team.
And it's gonna hurt.
boy,
but
yeah,
if he gets us the ring this year, you know what?
Yeah, I saw that.
Caruso, come back, Caruso.
You'll come back when
I forgot if it's Bobby Marks or Sean Marks, whichever one, the one that is always talking on TV. But he posted that little graphic that shows how much they can actually afford to pay him for the next 2 years of his contract, and it's much lower than he should
lower.
technically get. Yeah, I mean it's mid-level exception level, which is Patrick Beverly. So you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. It'll be so
It's really
interesting
gonna
to see what
depend.
happens with him.
Depends
But you're
on-
right. Yeah, honestly, if they win, kudos to him for earning that contract.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll
just
see what
don't
he
be
does in
a
the future.
Jordan Poole. Going into my next take.
Going to the other team
Yeah.
now.
Go on,
What a big old pull of shit you are,
Woo.
bro.
Look.
Yeah.
I could have given you some credit if beginning of the season you were playing like this, but you picked it up in the back half into the postseason. I was gonna say the beginning of the season maybe because of the drama between you and Draymond. Maybe it kind of hurts the team chemistry, all this, all that. As we could see, that wasn't.
Did
at
we
least-
say he deserved to get punched? I feel like we said that, right?
I think we said he
It's like-
deserved it because he kind of egged it on, and then
Yeah. I feel like I've been on record as saying that
yeah.
Homeboy deserved to get punched.
and I
Just-
think I
He
agreed
might
with you. I'm gonna
He's
honestly say
he's
that.
fe-
If I
he's
remember
feeling
it now,
himself from
I'm
that
pretty
contract.
sure.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
we
just-
never
just-
said that play clip now. Oh, he deserved it.
yeah.
Oh no! Fact check.
Nah, but Poole, you look like ass on the court. There's a reason why you only got about 10 minutes of play in game
Yeah.
5, I think. And then Klay Thompson, he was doing well this whole season that he was playing. He got his legs back under him.
Mhm.
Disappeared in this series. I don't know what it was. I wouldn't even necessarily say that we played outstanding defense on a lot of the coverages because he got a lot of open looks this series and it just clank. And it came down to, and I'm not saying that this is the reason, but it came down to that you looked at Steph and how he was trying to play throughout this series, and you could tell he knew everything was on him. All the pressure was on him to get this team out of this series because these guys aren't showing up. Draymond is still being belligerent to the refs wherever he can. Looney's there to get you boards, but that is all Looney is there to do for you. DiVincenzo, he'll hit some shots here and there and get you guys kind of rolling, kind of stop the bleeding a bit, but you need at least Klay or Poole to show up nightly for you guys to succeed. And because both of those guys just took a back seat, and I'm not even going to say that it was this, but when you looked at Poole, his was just he looked frazzled. He did all these stupid decisions when he knew as a competitor, I think now 4 years in the league, something you shouldn't be lapsing in when you guys are playing in a postseason. And then Klay, he just looked disinterested. He didn't, he kind of gets that cocky, conceited look on his face when he knows his team's doing well or he's being a big part of why they're succeeding. But he just looked like not that he didn't care, but he just wasn't there. I don't know what it was. I don't know if maybe he's nursing some aches and pains or he has some off-court stuff going on, but he just didn't look like he was invested in the series.
Yep.
And it showed not only on the stats, but on the results of the series. So I don't know what their next move will be. They have an opportunity to pretty much bring back at least the same team.
Did you see the rumor that came out this morning? I'm just curious.
For which one?
No.
For the
Draymond?
Warriors. No, not for Draymond. It's for somebody else that I was curious to hear your thoughts on if you hadn't heard the rumor.
I haven't.
That the Warriors would look very hard at possibly trading for Kevin Durant again. there's talks because of Draymond's contract situation. They got the Jordan Poole contract. They got the Andrew Wiggins contract. They got Kuminga, Moody. A good amount of random pieces that they could swing on over to the Suns to keep them still competitive while also doing the old run it back deal. What do you think about that whole concept?
I mean, you have a one player alone that could help you with that trade, and that's trading Poole. If you can get Draymond, who wants to stay at Warriors, to sign for maybe a little less than what he would expect as probably what he considers himself a max player. You're not a max player anymore, Draymond. I'm sorry, but you are a historic name for that franchise now, and they will give you the opportunity to sign. Just maybe not when you want
Give
to
him
hear.
the old last Mike Conley
Yeah.
Grizzlies contract.
So
10 mil a year or whatever it was. I think it was something.
I don't know about 10 million a year, but yeah, you have Poole right away that you can dish off. I wouldn't be surprised if they gave up Moody and or Kuminga. If you have the chance to retain Wiggins, I would retain Wiggins because he was probably the 2 option in this series. And this dude was battling some off-court stuff with family health and was able to come back for the postseason to help you guys.
I feel like they would take Wiggins over Poole. Like,
Yeah.
why would you want Poole?
I mean, we
no,
talked,
they would-
we,
yeah,
we
they
talked
would-
about it when the contracts were signed, right? We said we understand the Wiggins part of it. We didn't understand the Poole part of it.
Yeah.
So,
So if you can, I would say dish off Poole, dish off a couple of pieces. I don't know what draft pick they have this year or how many firsts they have going on still,
Yeah.
but if they're willing to give you that for KD, do it. And
Better
then-
yet, if something like that doesn't present itself, are you considering, because there is also a rumor that Bob Myers may be out, are you considering blowing
Wow.
up this core at any chance? Or at any
blowing
time?
up the core? No. Blowing up everything around it? I'd be for. Because if you have
Around
these guys,
it includes...
DiVincenzo, Poole, Kuminga, Moody, Looney, was it
ooh,
Adam?
So you're not including...
DiVincenzo. I like DiVincenzo.
I like DiVincenzo, but
I like that
you
guy a
trade for him
lot.
right now.
I know, but I
Um,
like the way he fits
yeah.
into that system, though.
But I
He
would,
fits into
I
that
would,
system really well.
unless it was a great package, I would keep Wiggins because he still has youthful legs under him and he can be there to provide
Mhm.
if Clay doesn't seem to climb back up to where he was supposed to be in this postseason. But that's just me. I think that core is, and that's one of the things I took issue with was, and I could, it could just be kind of out of context or what he meant was something different than what we interpret. But for Steve Kerr to say like, "Oh, this isn't a championship team," it's like this is the same exact championship team you had last year. So it's not that it's the different team, and it's not a championship team. Something else is going on that needs to be figured out between the players, between the front office, whatever it is. But I don't know. Maybe he was just saying mentally this isn't the same championship team, or if he's just saying that this roster isn't a championship team. It's like that is the roster you won with. So
Well, I think the hardest part is Andrew Wiggins is more of a factor with all the off-court distractions. I think that's why he wasn't as prevalent in these
Yeah, I
in
was
the
gonna say,
series
it
for
was
me at
interesting
least
to
because I
see.
love Andrew Wiggins last year. I
Yeah,
thought
it's
he
awesome.
deserved the MVP. That was my
we all said
remember that's
he
what we were
was
fighting
arguably,
about. Yeah, that's what we were fighting about last year. It's like, hey, he could be the MVP if they win this because of what he was doing. And I think the off-court
Big boy
distractions
stuff.
really play, mentally, physically tolls on you as as a player when you're not fully there because you got other things going on. Like it makes it tough for you to perform at a high level
Yeah.
in any regard.
Yeah.
So I think
Oh,
that's
suck it up, you big baby. No, I'm just joking.
Suck it
No,
up.
I'm just joking.
Bitch.
wow, insensitive.
Who stays? Who stays? Who goes? Who do you think? Because they clearly have to do something. So somebody has to go. Somebody has to stay. Who's it going to be?
I think they're gonna.
Have they fallen that far out of love with Jordan Poole that you think they would actually make the move to move on from him?
I would say yes, because Steph, Clay, and Draymond's clock is already on that downward. So if you want to make sure that you're offering these guys a win now opportunity because that's what's left for them, kind of like the LeBron effect, like, hey, we're going to do whatever we can to keep these three and get you what you guys want because we only know we have so much time left on what you can provide for us. Poole is the first one to go because he eats up too much of the cap and because he was a shit show this postseason / season inconsistently. So, and I don't think he brings anything to the team. Honestly, I really like he had great spurts of offense, but he's not a great defender. He's not a great help rotation defender. His IQ is abysmal, and he just has some big flashy spurts of scoring. He's J.R. Smith, like a glorified J.R. Smith in my opinion. So he's got to be the first to go.
He was always going to be to me. He was always going to be like a 6-man type of deal. You really flaunted him like he was going to be the next big thing, but he's only putting up these numbers because he's got two of the greatest shooters of all time on his team that are really just giving him the space to operate like he does. So I don't know, man. That is
I would say
if you were on the Poole train, you're stupid.
you should probably try to keep Looney just because he knows his role and does well in that role.
Yeah, dude, he's been pulling like 10 and 20.
Yeah.
Like that's literally what his stat line has been, man. That's been crazy.
Great role guy.
It's been crazy.
But you gotta they held on, and this is the biggest thing is like you held on to a player like Wiseman, but didn't use him, and then obviously bailed on him. And you're holding on to these players like Kuminga and Moody, who people who are Warriors fans and analysts are like, oh yeah, these guys could be this and this. I still see nothing out of them that makes them desirable by any team or even your team. So if you're gonna do it now, because I think that's your only shot. And I think the biggest shot you have right now, if you want to keep this core, is you have to get Draymond on board with taking the cut. Because if he doesn't take the cut, then it's goodbye Draymond, and then at least you have Stephen Clay, but you may have more room to work with. But Draymond is a minimum. Big thing. Huh?
Oh, wow.
Minimum? Okay.
Damn.
Okay.
It's like, Dre, we can do so much if you just take this.
Dude, he was like one of the main scorers in Game 5.
Here is your contract.
It's like 1.8 mil. Like
I think we forgot a comma. It's like, nope, 100,000.
Bro, you're missing a zero somewhere. No. There's a zero in front of your one.
He's been in long enough where it's going to be like 3.4. Come on.
3.4156. To pay for his part.
7.
Anyways.
Nerd.
3.4562. Anyway, so what else you got for the Warriors?
You got anything else, Nolan?
That's it. Go Lakers. Woo!
Yes, sir. We're gonna move on to the final series. I'll take that one, boys. Don't worry about it. I got you.
Sir. I love it.
No, I'm just joking. I'm gonna let Jared. I'm gonna let you talk about the Phoenix.
I'll talk about
Suns
Denver. You can talk
and
about
Denver.
Phoenix.
Yeah, that's what I was like.
Phoenix.
I'll throw some stuff in
that?
there. Yeah,
I was like, I'll give you Phoenix, and then I'll talk about Denver.
For sure. I do want to touch on this series. What were your kind of thoughts on what you saw from their series in general, from Jokic in general, and kind of like obviously you've already proclaimed that you thought that Jokic should have been the MVP. So what did you see?
I mean, stats don't lie. How many triple doubles did he have in this one series alone? The presence that he makes on the court, whether he has 8 points and he's close to a triple double, he'll bring up an easy 20 points after that, just to bring that along. He gets his teammates involved. He's not the fastest defender, but he's a good plugger when it comes to his defensive roles. I think Jamal Murray played an amazing series, and he's great. When he's great, I mean, that's that's going to be a crazy team because you have that 1-2 punch. Jokic doesn't have to worry about scoring when they're worrying about Murray doing all these other things. It opens up a little bit more for shooting. I think KCP had a great series on both sides of the ball. I watched him take the ball in the basket more times and actually finish them and make some tough shots. Oh no, and I loved KCP when he was with LA because he did these things. He was a good 3-point shooter. He was aggressive. He was gritty on the backs on the defensive side of the ball. Man, MPJ,
on the defensive side of the
he was
ball.
doing the gritty. I mean, might as well. When you up 25 against the Suns, you can do the gritty anywhere you want.
Can't wait to see Jalen do the gritty in Vegas.
Hey, there you go.
He doesn't listen.
He doesn't listen to us. I think MPJ kind of like he didn't have the most glorified series, but I think getting him back into the groove of things at least will help them going into this next series, because him and Aaron Gordon, I think, need to pick up the slack going into this next series. But I mean, that's a starting five right there, and I mean that starting five alone. Whether I don't even want to go into their bench,
the nice
because
thing about at least the Lakers matchup against this team is that now you can actually utilize Vanderbilt to cover MPJ or Aaron Gordon rather than have him work horse against Steph, because Jamal Murray, as shifty and dynamic as he's been for their team, he is not Steph Curry, where you need to guard him 40 feet out from the rim. So
yeah, give him that shot.
Yeah, I think
you give him that.
There's some pros and cons to the Denver Nuggets now being the new team we're facing.
I agree. And then Bruce Brown on the bench, like, he's been a great six man for them. He comes in, he relieves, he really gets the job done while he's there. So I mean, Denver, we kind of talked about it. They're a team that'll get there, because if they're playing good team ball and they're firing on all cylinders, and obviously against Phoenix, they kind of showed that a little bit. But going into this matchup, I think it's like you said, it could easily be a 7-game series.
I was just thinking to myself, I was just like, because obviously we always get there eventually to the point where I ask you guys, who do you think's gonna win? But I was like, will you ever make a non-LeBron or Laker choice? No, you will not.
Hell no.
I'll tell you what, if the Lakers,
it's like being Julius Randle talking about,
the Lakers still had Westbrook, I guarantee I probably would have picked the Lakers.
Dude, we wouldn't even have gotten to the playoffs.
That's true.
Let's be real about that one. Like, we wouldn't have gotten to the playoffs. But handing it over to you, Sir Keone, to talk about the Phoenix Suns.
You can talk about how they played. That's fine. I'll just talk about one specific person.
Okay.
CP3, huh? I know.
I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, there's two. Yeah. Well, I was going to actually hit on it. CP3. You know, it just sucks because, man, that guy can never stay healthy. It's the curse of the playoffs for him, and it's sad. I mean, as great of a player he is, that's all he'll ever be known for, is that when it comes to playoffs, either A, he chokes, or B, he's never in the lineup. So, I mean, that's super sad on Chris Paul's part, because I think he's a great point guard. I think he's actually a true point guard. We don't have too many of those anymore, and we talked about it. Like, how do you rate your point guards? I was like, Chris Paul, if I'm rating true point guards, he's up there with some of the greatest of them because of the things he does in the offenses that he
runs. Top fives?
No, nobody had him top 5 because he didn't win.
I had him slide in at the 5.
I think you were at the 5. I thought he was a 6 for everybody. I thought he was a 6 for everybody.
Yeah, I was like, I thought he didn't make it.
Because I think when I created my list, I said, like, I envisioned true point guards, but Steph was the one exception I had in my list.
Okay. But yeah, so for him, and then the whole DeAndre Ayton ordeal. Oh yeah, fuck. No, the whole DeAndre Ayton ordeal. I mean, I don't even want to get into that because we've had so many conversations about Ayton.
That's why Nikola Jokic for DeAndre Ayton, like, straight up.
I mean,
God,
at this point, why not? If you're gonna send him to the Suns, like, at least you'll get a guy who's actually going to play too.
Vucevic,
you know,
DeMar DeRozan for DeAndre.
I swear,
like,
like,
CP3.
One of these days, I'm just
CP3.
I'm just gonna make a sound bite and put it on my audio face. Like, for DeMar DeRozan, it's like
that's the one. I like that. I think you should. I really think you should. Yeah. So that was my 2 that I really wanted to touch on, as far as, like, I think key players that didn't play a lot. But man, I said it before, and even though he didn't have a great closeout game, Devin Booker was the man of the series.
Yeah,
he kept them in the series. He did everything he could. He was the workhorse. He said, "Hey, nobody else going to do shit. I'm going to put you on my back, and I'm going to keep." Yeah, and you know, this is the one time that we can't say Booker cried about a bunch of things, because he actually went out and got it. I mean, he really did almost everything in his power that he physically could, because I'm sure by game 6 he was gassed because he had to do so much, you know. And granted, that's the only game KD outscored him. It's like, well, it's about freaking time somebody helps this
Mhm.
man out, because we thought we were getting
One of
him
the
help.
greatest scorers of all time. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What, yeah.
Hmm?
Top
Just
3
said couldn't
point,
outs
top 3 small
top
forward
three
of all
small
time.
forward. He's like
Yeah,
couldn't even
yeah.
outscore one guy in like more than one game out of a 6-game series.
And he didn't even he wasn't even the leading scorer because Cameron Payne was.
That's the other thing too. I'm like, bro,
Cameron
I
Payne.
was
outscored
like,
by Cameron
I was like,
Payne,
you're like
dog.
trickling. I was like, I'll add to that trickle. I got you.
Bro,
But I
yeah.
mean, yeah. So for me, like, I just want to shout out Devin Booker. I mean, we've always given him grief on the pod and talked about his like mentality and things like that. But I think for me, Devin Booker was the key to keeping them in the series this whole game. But I'm not going to talk about the 2-letter name. You can have him all you
I was gonna say, watch when everyone gets his operator in Call of Duty. Like, just, what the fuck? Like,
No. Dude, I'm not going to get his operated, but if I kill Kevin Durant, I'm shooting bodies.
This is the Call of Duty thing. Also, that clip out of context probably sounds weird.
Yeah.
Warzone. That
Yeah.
you know. 'cause
No.
he
I'm
is
going to shoot
now
him in
an
ranked.
operator.
I'm going to shoot him in ranked.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, bro. Anyway, yeah, getting into what I was gonna say, honestly, like I've been on this train for a very long time that I just think that this dude is not him. Like every single team he's been on, including the OKC Thunder, which I do think, although they did tremendous, got to the finals, still lost it or whatever it might be. It just seems like there was always somebody else that has to like carry a big burden for him. And he just never was able to lock into that leadership role and be the guy that he should be, because we've all seen him be immensely talented, score over just about everybody. There were moments in that series with the Warriors and the Cavs where he made LeBron look like an absolute fool, but he just can't seem to get it together. And I think it's just crazy that people rate him so high, not just in small forwards of all time, but just as a player all time. Like people actually include him in their top 5 of all time list, top 10 of all time list. And it's just insane to me, because for somebody who should be taking people to that next level, he can just never do it. And he doesn't even really have the excuse of being not healthy. That's what makes it the worst, is like he's had these series where like, yeah, he's been not healthy for some of them, but for the moments that he should be there, he is there, and he just doesn't show up. And I was like, for me, it's the same old story. And it's like you kind of pointed out another guy who I do think kind of falls into that category of just never going to be able to do it. And that's CP3. It sucks that they both happen to be on the team at the same exact time. But really, it just comes down to the fact that these guys are not those guys. And they've never been those guys, and they never will be those guys. And for all those people on the Bulls fandom who continue to think that DeMar DeRozan is going to be that guy, you're kidding yourself. I mean, I know we talked about how he said
Suns trade Kevin Durant for DeMar DeRozan. You're like, well,
honestly though, no,
what I meant was like in the Western Conference, I don't think he's, but over in the East.
So I mean, he would be an upgrade over DeMar, but still, it's one of those things where I just like as I hear people talk about how crazy talented he is, I can't help but think about all of the failures that he's had in his entire career. And at this point in time, as we slowly get towards the end of his career, I just think it's too late for him to prove otherwise. Like he can't, like it's in the proof is in the pudding. He had 2 years with the Brooklyn Nets. He had a year now with the Phoenix Suns. I mean, a half a year, I guess, technically. And he just proved absolutely nothing. Like for me, it's just, you needed the Warriors, KD. Like, let's just put it straight. It should have been Steph. Steph should have been the MVP. They didn't need you. You needed them. Like, let's just be honest here. Like, it at the end of the day, it really comes down to it. Like, I don't know, bro. Like, I told Nolan, I was like, if he doesn't get out the first, and they almost didn't get out of first, you know what I mean? Like, and then they get into this one, and they just, lose by like 30 in 2 games. Like, was it 2 games that they lost by 30, or was it just the last one that they basically lost by 30? Because the last one was at 24, but
I think it was just
Jared, are you muted now?
I think it was just the last one.
You know.
Testing.
The last one was
There.
25. Sorry.
Gotcha.
No, I was
Yeah.
muted because I was moving my mic, and then we talked about this last time. I didn't want to get yelled at. I was like, come on.
Yeah, but yeah, it is one of those things. I'm just like, this is just the story of his career, man. He's just gonna go down as one of the greatest to just never do it on his own. Like,
You have Austin
realistically.
Reeves, Himmy Butler, Kevin Durant.
It's like women are strong, Nolan.
Like the Las Vegas.
Yeah,
Aces.
there was only one game that was 20, 16, 5, 7, 10, 10, and 18. Like those were the difference in scores. I'm
Yeah.
not saying who won
But
or
it's
lost, but
what I think what's
yeah.
crazy too is like in those games, had he did what he's brought there to do, you know what I mean? Those are very
Yeah.
winnable games, and in my head, it's just he
I
doesn't have that
fact-checked.
alpha mentality.
I fact checked. He outscored Devin Booker 2 of the 6 games. Because
Gotcha.
I was like, I was like, I know one of them was close. I couldn't remember, and it was game 1 where he scored more than Devin.
But
Booker.
you know they bring him in to be the one, right? Like you know what I mean? Like they didn't bring him in to be the complement to Devin Booker. They brought him in to be
You were
the
supposed to be the
guy
man. You were supposed to
and
be the
have
man.
Devin Booker. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like if it was a ranking, it was supposed to be KD, then Book, then CP. But either way, I mean, it's just I'm fully off the train already with him. It's like I can't get on board with him, no matter what he does for the rest of his career. Honestly, like it's just there's too much of this. But anyway, I mean, I think that'll do it for this conversation with the playoff stuff. We're going to touch on one last thing I think that we should just mention because it's stupid and
Because it's stupid.
bro. I mean, what? John Morant once again. Like you would think that this was just a replay of like our
Dude,
old podcast
when I
where we
read
talked
it-
about this.
When I read it, I was
thought
like,
it was-
dude, when is this from?
Yeah,
You know how you see it on like a story or something? You got to go
Yeah.
back and be like, oh, this was
Yeah.
like 7 weeks ago. Or
It's like
10
why
weeks
are
ago.
people
I'm
reposting
like, what are we
this?
talking about? And I was
Yeah,
like, what?
He's now not John Morant. He's Jaw Wick.
I wrote something on top. I think it was. I want to say it was Juan Toscano Anderson who posted something. He tweeted out basically supporting Ja, saying like,
I think
kind
I
of
saw
like
you respond to that.
yeah, because it's so stupid. Like his mentality for this entire thing is like, do not paint Ja as a victim. Like no normal human being ever has to go and make some kind of motion with a gun in their hand. Like
And
that
it
is
wasn't
the
even in his
stupidest
hand
thing.
when the video started. And you clearly
Yeah.
know your friends on live feed, so you just go,
Like
your friend
that-
was
yeah.
the smart one who drops the phone instantly because he saw you holding it.
His tweet was literally something like, "Why are these people always recording? Why are these people always going live?" I'm like, it's not the dude's fault. Like
Don't be a
why not-
dumbass.
Yeah, why don't you bust out the gun that you were busted for? Like that's so stupid. Like
It's as easy as Jog being like, hey man, turn it off. And then
yeah,
boom, it's off.
yeah. And then
Here I am.
Yeah, you stupid little whatever the hell you're doing. Like I don't know, bro.
Bruh.
Anyway, I mean,
It's-
real quick before we go, that's what I want to ask you guys. Does he deserve another chance to stay in the league, or do you think that he should just be, playing in China with Dwight? So
I think he deserves to play in the league, but I think he also deserves the punishment that fits the build of the crime. Crimes, I use that very sparingly because is it legal to own a gun? Yes. Is it legal to have a gun in video? Technically, yes. But he is doing it very exaggerated and
actually, that was one point I was going to state is
Yes.
that the reason why it is he's being suspended for it is not because it's illegal in any sort of way as far as the law is concerned. It is because
it's
the
in public.
NBA themselves
Oh.
have a policy
Oh,
regarding
gotcha.
having
clause,
a
right?
weapon. Yeah, so they do actually have an actual policy regarding this, which is why he received the suspension due to their policy. So from that perspective, do you think that he deserves another chance? Because this is, for all intents and purposes,
It's a
this is a
job.
business. This
Yeah.
is a job, exactly. So he is an employee. They are the bosses, you know what I mean? So does he deserve another shot after this? And then, like I said, you just either which way, wherever you feel. Do you think he deserves another one?
I would say yeah. I still think he should be in the league, but I do think that there should be a substantial stipulation pay cut, something that goes into his contract because it is an NBA policy. It should be something that can go into voiding portion of his guaranteed money or something along those lines. If it was a actual crime that does need legal involvement, kind of in that respect, that's a different story. I think the most thing I would take issue with the second time around was that it was in public in a car. Like, okay, one, you're at a private strip club, sure, or you're at a nightclub, whatever, that's probably shut down just for you and your group, your posse. Okay, maybe that's a little bit forgivable. This one, you're literally in a car, hand on the gun, flailing it around. I don't remember if they were driving, actually moving or not, but
No, I don't think they were.
I just
pretty
think
sure they were like parked.
that he needs to get the proper suspension, proper cut from his pay, and I think it needs to be some sort of, for moving forward, built into his contract that if you do anything of this nature again, we're voiding your whole contract and you're gone. Because I think that's the easiest way to do it. Because it's not like he's a detriment on the court. He's not even though we see the Memphis Grizzlies do better without him, but I mean, he's not a detriment to a team on the court. He's not a danger to other people on the court, but he's making it very clear that he is not mature enough to be a part of a business as prestigious as the NBA is. And you've had thousands and thousands of players from all walks of life who have come into the league and not acted as stupidly as you have, not once, but twice, after being reprimanded for the first time within the same
sent
season.
To rehab on top of that. I was like, you were sent to a psychiatrist.
The crazy thing is, this is not like a
on
drug.
Their dime.
It's not a drug. It's not like I accidentally relapsed and now I'm addicted to the drug again. Like, it's a gun. It's not like, I need it. Let me hold the gun. Like, I don't understand what was going through his head, but bottom line, he does deserve to be the league.
No, he doesn't have enough money for security. Leave him alone. He can't pay them more than $10 million a year
because he went to a private school. He doesn't need protection. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, make the right stipulations, clauses that need to be added to his contract and contracts moving forward, and make sure this dummy doesn't still dumb out the dumbness of being dumb.
You're much nicer than I am. I'd say fire his ass. But moving over to you, Jared. What are your thoughts on this one?
I mean, I was kind of with Nolan, like in the mindset of it. Like, there has to be the clause, stipulations, and things like that. And then because this is a second strike, there literally needs to be a straight clause of it's a 3 strikes and you're out. Like, it can be for something, even self-defense. Like, if the clause is a clause for this and that, and you're doing this, and it's an NBA policy, 3 strikes and you're out, and you have to stand by that, because you give him more than 3 strikes, and then it just looks like you said, it's a business. When you're looking at a business, like, how credible are you going to be? It's like, oh, but he's one of our superstars. No, you're an idiot off the court.
You can always find another superstar.
Yeah. There's a lot more people that are there that get farther than you, that are more notable than you, and that are better people than you. Granted, if you went to a private school or not, and if you can't conduct yourself the way you should, like Nolan said, off the court, then you have no business being on the court, especially if you're looking at it from a business point of view. So, I mean, I'd give him another chance, just because, like, it was just whatever. You're in a car. It's not like he was like walking around like, hey, look at me. But I mean, still, you have to give him this punishment, because there is a clause that says that you cannot, like,
was that
do things like that.
This year, like calendar year, that he did the first one?
No, wasn't it last year or something?
No, I think it was during 2023, I believe.
Yeah, I was just saying,
was?
I feel like we had that discussion not that long ago.
No, it was not long.
We
But
should
I
just go
couldn't.
back to our episodes and.
I
find
just
the
couldn't remember if
episode,
like
yeah.
that video was a previous video from before, not like something that was like current, and then they talked about it.
I can't remember, but it just seems like it was so recent that
It feels like
kinda
it was
nuts.
just.
It
But I
was-
mean,
it was
for this to
right-
happen twice in we'll
It
put
was
this
right
way.
after
It happened
the
twice in a
All-Star.
year.
Because he played in the All-Star, didn't he?
Oh, so then it was this year, yeah. It was definitely this calendar year because
I think it was
All-Stars
like right
March.
after All-Star or something like that.
So it's only been 2 months
Dude.
since that.
For it to happen in just
He
a
was.
year.
It was more nuts.
We'll
It's
put
been
it
2
this way.
months.
It happened
He
in a
was out
season.
for
In
a
a season.
month.
We'll go into season. Yeah.
He was out for a month. He's only been back for a month.
Don't worry,
it's
guys.
like-
I'm back.
I know, I'm like, bro, how stupid can you be?
No,
Uh,
yeah. That makes it even more ridiculous.
Now the jaw
So
on
I mean, for it to
board.
happen, like if you that way you put into context that suspension and the fines and whatever everything
Yeah.
should be more heavily like on him because it's in such a short period.
And I'm going
You
to just say this for all you stands out there who are very like your gun enthusiasts or your guns rights people or
That's not
you're
even the point.
you're on the side of him because of his rights as an American citizen. Like honestly, this is a private organization that has private policies that he himself signed a contract for and is working with for a large sum of money. And
Yep.
for anybody to say that this dude feels unsafe when he's making that ridiculous amount of money, it's just I'm like, what are you possibly saying about this? This is the most privileged person in the world right now, or one of the most privileged people in the world right now. So for him to be waving it around with all the money, I don't understand.
And
He already got
understand,
paid.
Like you understand. Understand. This is not the fact that he can or cannot own a gun.
Yeah.
But if you are
Exactly.
representing a business, don't put your personal
Just
business
keep
on
it
the
to
web.
yourself.
Like
I
that.
know. Just keep it at home. What does it matter? I don't know. Anyway, that'll do it for us here on this episode of After the Buzzer. I'm glad we were able to get through that generally stress-free because there were some moments in there. But anyway, yeah, I'd like to thank you guys for joining us on this episode. Boys, where can the people find you, starting with you, Jared?
On Instagram and Twitch at jshirai, JSHIRAI, and on Twitter at jshirai808.
Raja, Nolan, where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch at NolanKYT, NOLANKYT.
My man. And you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch at KONE. That's KAYOHKNEE. And you can also check us out on Instagram at the Poi and Soy Podcast, where we post reels for each one of these episodes. So that is 3 to 4 a week. So, we be pumping them out because I'm the one editing them. He be pumping them out like crazy. But anyway,
I do a little bit of editing.
but I'm saying I was being sarcastic. I was like, obviously you're the editor, but I was just like, yeah. So get out there, check out them reels, give us a like, go over to YouTube, give us a like on those as well. And yeah, let everybody know about this podcast because it's one of the best in the world. Just joking. Anyway,
Top
that'll
3
do it for us.
all time.
Great. Now it's not really top 3 because you said it.
Wow, because you said it.
Now it's gonna fail before the championship game. Anyway, that'll do it for us on this episode. It's been a pleasure. It's been a joy. From all of us here at Poi and Soy.
Good vibes and love, everybody.
Bang bang.
Shoot.